Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world. Welcome back to Comer What's Up Enterprise podcast, where we explore the latest technology trends across industries with the leading experts from around the globe. Today, we have a great guest with us, Scott Campbell, head of media and telecom industry as an advisor for North America at SAP. This is going to be a lot of fun. And for me, there's a lot of interest here because I'm very interested in the entertainment industry specifically. But I think Scott's overall background, how he got into this, and what it means for media companies to be using SAP. We're going to talk a little bit of all of that, maybe talk about some music, maybe some soccer. But yeah, let me introduce Scott.
Thank you, David. It's nice to be here. Thanks for inviting
Yeah,
me.
let's start out a little bit, Scott, and talk about your background and how you got an SAP. But first, I think you have a very interesting background, and you've worked with a lot of great people, a lot of great bands. But now you're doing SAP, so let's
Yeah, it's
talk
like,
about that.
how did that happen? I know I have to ask myself that, but I think what happened is I just got old. But I started my career actually in kind of high-end computer graphics back in 1985. And I did that for a couple of years using an Apple II before it was Macintosh. And I had real desires to work in the music industry. So I took a career change, and I went into the music industry and started at the bottom, but worked my way up fairly quickly in Scotland, where I'm originally from. And I was fortunate at the time in the late 80s, early 90s that some of the best bands in the world would come through
Oh
or
yeah.
come out of Scotland as well as come through Scotland. So I worked with some great artists and bands back then that helped me get to that point. I was using the latest and greatest technology that was available at the time. And at that time, it was all tape. Everyone was using big, 2-inch tapes on machines that would spin around, and it was all analog and linear, basically. So
Right.
my first kind of entree into the digital world was actually with Apple and a company called DigiDesign, who
Okay.
actually became Avid Technology, and they today are one of the biggest companies in the media industry that do video editing and audio production technology. But I get involved with them, and through one thing and another, started a project with the band Simple Minds in Scotland, and then ended up training about 800 BBC producers how to edit using a mouse instead of a razor blade and a Chinograph pencil on tape. So that
Yeah, I
was the
didn't
first
think about
digital
that.
transformation, actually. And it
Yeah.
was that kind of led my journey into the internet later in the early 90s, mid 90s. I get involved in the internet as it was evolving, and helped launch an internet music venture that was the first kind of major technology to allow folks to download music over the internet. So that kind of led me over to the US, where I moved in the late 90s. And I've been here ever since. I joined SAP 12, 13 years ago. And I'd been at Scripps Networks before I joined SAP, managing their video operations. So the Food Network, Travel Channel, HGTV, all that kind of stuff, managing all the video operations teams who were creating the digital properties for Scripps. Like the websites, the video on demand, and the streaming service content deliveries. So I was managing a team doing all that for Scripps, and I was at the Associated Press before that as well. So I kind of been in this kind of digital transformation world, and SAP came to me and said, look, we need someone that understands what our customers do, so that they can actually, know that we're not just hiring tech people to, program code. We actually care about what our customers' goals are. So, I'd been by that time, on various kind of technology programs with these transformations, and it just seemed like a great opportunity. And I've been working with some of the best companies in the world ever since. SAP's fortunate to have 9 out of the top 10 media and entertainment companies actually run SAP. So it's like a who's who of
So can we
the
name some of those companies, like in terms of media
sure.
companies that use SAP? What?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, we've got some of them have allowed us to use their names in informal ways, and others maybe have mentioned their name or spoken at events. So I'm not going to say that they're a testimonial from any customers in case anyone listening
Right.
about
But
that.
I
But
was
Tim
real
Cook has
curious.
said, for example, from Apple, Tim Cook has said publicly that they run SAP for their critical business
Yeah.
systems, and we're a huge part of Apple's involvement on their financials and their billing systems. And it's the same with some of the biggest companies in the world. NBC is running Peacock and their financials as well, but the Peacock streaming service is running our billing technology. So companies like that, same at Paramount, same at the other customers out there that are like Disney and stuff that are running SAP.
But this would be more under manufacturing, right? I know that Fender also uses Fender
That's right.
guitar. They use,
Yes.
I mean, but that wouldn't be under entertainment media, right? Or
No,
media,
it's
would it?
not. Yeah, that would be
That's more
manufacturing. Yeah.
manufacturing.
So
Okay.
yeah, well, in media, so we classify media. That's a good point, actually. So at SAP, and not just at SAP, we actually go under the SIC, and standard industry
Right.
code
Yes. Yeah. The
structures.
industry codes. Uh-huh.
So the media to us, we don't include so I cover the media and communications industry more broadly. So it's media, entertainment, sports, and communications.
Oh,
And
that's wild.
yeah, which
Sports
is funny. You're
too.
talking about soccer,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and we can talk about that in a little bit, but the industries have really been converging in that sense. So within media, you've got the film, the TV, the broadcaster types. We call premium content companies. So companies who make content but don't necessarily broadcast it and have multi-conglomerate type operations the way that an NBC or whoever Disney might have with their own broadcast networks and things. So we kind of go the gambit. So we've got 70% of our revenue actually comes from small and medium-sized companies, not just everyone thinks, wow, SAP's got 908 of the top 1,000 companies running it. Must be crazy expensive. It's actually a very accessible platform for companies
I
that are
think
maybe
that
getting
means,
about 15,
yeah, a
20
lot of
million dollars
people
in
would
revenue.
have that. I mean, I think that's a lot of people's perceptions. Like, SAP
Yeah,
runs Porsche. How are we going to run
that's
it?
right.
So this is
That's
great.
right.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
keep
well,
going.
that's just it. We're very proud of that heritage. Like I said, 908 of the top 1,000 companies run SAP. So it's, and obviously a lot more, but just out of that top 1,000 companies, it's there's a reason for that. But the thing is, the company's been working for the last number of years, since I think 2015, building out our public cloud version of that ERP. So when you're a multinational, you need different, jurisdictions. You're managing taxes and things in overseas places, and it gets very complicated. It's still complicated for a small business trying to do that stuff overseas, but they might not have offices in those locations. They may just be
Right.
transacting from here and stuff. So we're very agile with the platform. The kind of cloud version of SAP today, the public cloud version, it's called S4 HANA. That is actually very accessible to to kind of small companies that are actually just starting to kind of get a hold of their ERP kind of processes. They've probably been using Sage or QuickBooks or an Excel spreadsheet. Many of the customers I've talked to at that end of it, and that's fine, because the quicker you get yourself into systems and get a hold on your expenses and manage that and get visibility into your life cycle of your content, unless you actually can look into it and say, this episode or this season cost us this, or when you're renegotiating your contracts and things, that actually having those insights at your fingertips is critical. So that's how these companies are being competitive and staying at the edge, is by having access to these kind of capabilities.
So if you were to give like a basic summary, how does SAP work then within media? I mean, because you just touched upon a lot of different things, insights around your product and
Mm.
financials. It sounds like SAP is an end-to-end, runs everything. Now I know a
Yeah,
little bit
well,
about this, but some of my listeners
sure.
may not. So
No, well, the thing is, of course, we're an open platform, first of all. So, we recognize that companies have gone out there and built stuff themselves, or they've got things already that they're tied into agreements on. So we don't expect everyone to kind of go end to end SAP. There is a lot of people that end up doing that because it's value to them to have a common system of record that they can leverage. But it's the way that SAP has gone from being the system of record to the system of innovation and being agile and working on mobile and using AI to help kind of get some of the best out of your data. That's kind of where it's been going. So yeah, I mean, it's really to me that aspect of a media company is starts with idea to green light. It's like somebody comes up with an idea, or puts a pitch forward that we're going to create this movie or whatever article for a magazine or whichever part of the media industry it might be, and it starts there with idea to green light, and then it goes into planning, and then it goes into production. So that all of that life cycle, we can manage those business processes, taking them through that. And then even in post-production, where again, we've got partnerships as well as solutions ourselves in the post-production world. So, you can actually manage agency partnerships and kind of send your content between them and kind of still work across that life cycle from production into distribution and monetization of your content, and then billing and analyzing that data, like I said, whether it's the consumer behavior or whether it's the trends you're seeing in the financial data, and doing things like that. We call it, supporting decision insights, being able to have this trusted co-pilot nerd that's beside you with SAP that says, here's something in the data that you've not noticed. Have you ever thought about doing this? And that's very powerful. Our customers are really embracing that capability. So it's
So are you talking about SAP Joule? Is that what are you?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about Joule. I don't think, there's still a number of customers that not even aware of what Joule is and how that's helping people.
Sure. Well, so, SAP's had this co-pilot concept for a while. And, in fact, it's worth just mentioning that, I think since probably 2008, when SAP acquired maybe Business Objects and Sybase and things, that they became really, we became very big on the whole AI thing. I mean, it was, some of the tools and capabilities in our analytics platform that does propensity modeling and, helping create and manage algorithms to, to predict churn and do, interesting things that a media company particularly is concerned about, losing a subscriber. That's not a good day when that happens. So, and it does happen, between trends of that content appeals. So again, the better the insights into the performance of your data, the better the value is created from it. So Joule is actually born, I guess, out of the way that we've actually been incorporating AI into the business, and it's kind of learning from the data to help, as I said, highlight some of those business decisions with you. So
Yeah, key things. It's like, oh, I see you working on this, and so it highlights.
That's right. Yeah. Or we've seen this anomaly in the, here it's different to last quarter, or it's up or down and things. Exactly. And it gives you that that real granularity.
I think, Scott, there's so much attention on AI, and I don't think people realize how long SAP's had AI and these algorithms running within it.
That's
and
right.
so,
Yeah.
a lot of people talk about,
15
well,
years or so, 17
SAP's
years.
a big ship and, their technology, there's other technologies, but I don't think they realize, one, the immense amount of data that it's been able to train on its algorithms, right? So we talk about, I forget, something like 300 million users. 90% of all business transactions are actually run through SAP.
Yeah.
And probably most people don't have the understanding that these AI and algorithms have been working back there this whole time. Right.
That's
And
right.
so,
Exactly.
and here we are.
And it's like,
People are talking.
Yeah, no, I
ahead.
mean, AI is a bit like when, and SAP's, to be fair to us in that sense, we've kind of kept quiet about it because it's not, it's part of the secret sauce, I guess. So we've not really shouting out
that
the
makes
rooftop saying,
sense,
here's how we do it,
actually.
but actually, when you
Right.
think about SAP, really what it is a huge big repository of customer data
Right.
that can, as you say, transform into actionable insights. So that's what's
Yeah.
really exciting about it. So yeah, SAP
Well, you talk
has
about digital
great future with that.
transformation, and that's really,
Mhm.
it's all part of it. It's like, you started on the analog, then the tape. I mean, that whole history, and
Sure.
to see it
Yeah, I mean,
come
I didn't
together.
think they could improve. Listen, I've sat with folks in the BBC who said to me, until this computer can simulate the experience of rotating the tape on the heads, because remember, analog tape actually had the
Yeah,
audio on it. So, and they were
right.
editing that. They had to
Yeah,
know that where they put the pencil was where the audio was. Whereas on a mouse in the 90s, there was latency when you were using a mouse
right.
to feeling that what they call it, scrubbing. So yeah, I mean, that's what I guess the transformation is today. We have mobile devices. You don't need to be logged into a laptop with a VPN connection to make a decision and approve something now. You can, my boss approved about 10 travel requests I put in last week because I wanted to just take care of the year's vacation because I never used them. I end up at the end of the year thinking, I've got 10 days left I didn't use. So, that kind of an aspect of enabling folks to do things, give them the power to do it, to make the decisions, and empower them without them needing to be tied down to a desk is
Right.
incredible and very empowering. So it's no different in a studio. If you need to bring in another session player that you want to get it approved that you can do it, you don't need to run up the stairs and ask someone or go and try and get the
It
hold
just
of them on the
You just
golf
fill
course.
it out and it sends them a notice,
Yeah,
right? A
that's right. So
workflow notice. Like, can we go back a little bit about, so let's talk about what your title is over at SAP and what specifically you are tasked with. Like, what's your daily involvement with SAP and clients? Can we go back to
sure.
that for a minute? So,
We can do, certainly. So I am the head essentially of the industry advisory for media and telecom at SAP. So I'm responsible for our industry go-to-market and support to our customers in North America. So if it's anyone, in the media or kind of communication sector, I've created the business plan for SAP, if you like, for both industries, because we kind of govern them under media and telecom. As I said, you've got entertainment and sports in there as well, but it's media and telecom really, and basically help execute that business plan in terms of what we're doing to support customers in our different portfolios. We have key pillars of areas that we have, like human resources, spend management, finances and customer experience. So those four pillars, if you like, are the kind of cornerstones of our platform. And I'm helping bring our customer stories into that, creating content to support our it's not always that customer. One, you were talking about SAP earlier, and getting that perception and what have you, that that you don't really know what we do. You come at the airport and see this SAP
the
sign and think,
signs, so
what
and
who
so
are we?
runs SAP.
But then
Right.
you mentioned also that 90% of the world's technology transactions are processed through SAP. So it's that kind of a thing. We're helping demystify SAP and support the customers journey through that. So we can do things from design thinking, or value mapping, or different tools, vision to value, and all these kind of things that help the customer get either the value from the product that they've already got, or that they might be thinking about. So I'm kind of not really part of the sales process, in the sense that I'm not paid on a commission for closing a deal
Right.
with a customer. That's not how I'm here. I'm here for the long term with the customer as a person they know that's responsible for the
They
industry. So
they
where the
know
sales
that
reps
you
might
know their
change, they've
industry.
got a, yes, exactly.
Right. Like, they know, it's like they're talking to someone. It's difficult when you're someone trying to sell you something or go through things with you, and they really don't know your industry. So there has to be somebody on your side that
That's right.
specifically
Exactly.
knows, like, well, Scott, you know this. Why would that ever work within our industry? And then
Yeah.
because you have
And then I can
intimate.
say, well, actually, this customer did that and got this value from it. And,
Exactly.
exactly. So we help put that into content so that it appears kind of digitally in the ether as people are searching for stuff. And then we have, enablement that I do with our sales team, and our solution advisory and our, different parts of SAP, and ultimately it's the customer. Everything's, really around what our customers are doing. So
So,
so
so,
yeah, it's
so,
an interesting role.
so, so, Scott, I'm really curious now, and I'll probably ask each of the industry leads out there, or the heads of the industries for the different industries. How are customers receiving AI? Like, especially, I mean, there's lots of flavors now of AI, but SAP specifically has tools and things now that are directly related to tools and things that SAP does. For example, Just Ask on SAC, Joule. I think there's also some integration with Watson X. And there's probably many, many others that I'm not even
That's
covering,
right.
because I know,
Sure.
like, we have embedded analytics, from on the analytics side, but there's so many different areas in your specific industry. How are they being, in terms of them being receptive to the potential and what they should be doing with AI? And what are they saying are the challenges that they'd be willing to look at AI for them? Do
Mm. Sure. Well, so the media industry, obviously, AI has probably not disrupted any industry. I think, before it
more
disrupted the media industry, not more necessarily. I mean, I think it's going to impact everything, like you say. But,
right.
in terms of the canary in the coal mine, or whatever that horrible expression was for,
Right.
for
Yeah.
the first to
Yeah.
market, like the music industry was first in the internet, and it was a disaster because people started pirating music, and, the revenues of the music industry went like that until vinyl started selling again. So I mean, it's, the challenge
Yeah.
the media industry is having right now is not piracy. It's legitimate, challenges over subscription revenue, monetizing subscriptions. So, and the churn and the variance in their business. Again, just looking at it publicly, I can imagine that, I signed up for Get Back when, on Disney Plus, when the Beatles thing came out, the movie, and I didn't need another subscription. So after I finished watching the movie, I cancelled the subscription, and I have subscribed again since, if Disney's listening to this. But but that's the kind of behaviors that folks have, is they're temporarily
Yeah.
motivated to join Hulu because this is on it, or Netflix
I do
because of
that all
that.
the time. I join
Yeah,
HBO to
so
watch Game of Thrones. I think.
that's right. There you go. So that kind of that is made it all the more important for companies to leverage insights about the business. So we've also got partners that are doing this as well, at the various industry solutions that we have, that we encourage customers to look at to get more value from SAP. So once you've got this foundational platform that you can use for your HR, again, this is optional, you don't have to use all 4 modules, but
Right.
if they are leveraging the value of that platform, because it's all there for them whether they use it or not. And if they get HR and their spend management, the finances, and the customer experience pieces, they can actually extend those capabilities to leverage that system of record and connect other data points into that to help feed the algorithm, as it were. So that's actually, we've got solutions like Icertis, who are a company that make contract lifecycle management, AI application, intelligent contract lifecycle. I dare say they might change it from intelligent to AI soon, or whatever, based on
Right.
the way the trends are going. But they actually work within Microsoft Word for legal folks that can build an NDA using language that it says, here's what you need to get what the company would approve as a standard NDA, and accelerate for the general counsel the process of creating a contract, never mind a commercial agreement, and all those things that can happen through AI, helping you actually get the best business terms for you, and the different pricing and different things that these technologies can help you with. Not in the case of iService on pricing, but it's just contracts with them. But that kind of thing, we can we can help customers leverage value from AI, right through things they probably weren't even thinking of, more
Y-
broadly.
There's so we're starting to come up on the our allotted time schedule, and I have a billion questions for you. But I want to ask you because you started to talk about something, and this is going to be so. Here's what I'd like to do. I would like to invite you back to have you back on, and
Would love to.
we're gonna do some more deep diving into how SAP can help these this your industry. Definitely want to go back there, and I want to ask you some questions about like when is it a good time for them to start to consider. But I know a couple of things about your background, and if we're not allowed to talk about, we won't. But if we can, it'd be great. So you mentioned something about vinyl, and you see like, oh, vinyl's coming back in, but you have there's something happening very close to you that's bringing you back into vinyl. Can we talk about that, or is that?
Sure, we can talk about it. Yeah.
Oh,
So my son. So as you can see, I'm in a recording studio here, and
yeah. So
I
maybe
I have
explain
to
this.
admit,
This doesn't look like SAP in the background. So,
well, I have to admit, but by my daily office is actually upstairs in the attic. Where I'm
oh,
stuff's
excellent.
upstairs. But
This is
my
a
but
yeah.
the studio here. So my background was I was a recording engineer, as I mentioned,
Okay.
and my son, who is actually out of university now, and he's an engineer, excuse me, an in-house engineer for Atlantic Records, and he is
Wow.
also an artist in his own right. So he spends most of his time when he's not in Atlantic Records studio in Times Square. He spends most of his time in here recording his own songs. So I'm not even really so much an investor. He's running an independent record label himself. And obviously, I invested, I guess, in some of the equipment that you're looking at behind me.
Of course.
But he's running it, excuse me, as his own business, and he's got about 5 albums on Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music or whatever, Tidal, and about 180 different stores. And this newest record he has coming out actually in June is so my son's name is Ross Owen. He goes by his first and middle name, Ross Owen. So rossowen.com, if you're listening, check him out, give him a follow on Spotify.
I would
But
recommend it.
David asked me, but thank you, I appreciate it. But yeah, so he's actually he's gone and got the vinyl mastered, or the album mastered, I beg your pardon, and the vinyl made, and we literally just got the test pressing this week. So we were enjoying listening to it the other night there, and getting
Wow.
ready for the actual, the box of however many it is he's getting that will be arriving here any day now. So it has been interesting to see how that transition has swung. When I came to the US in 99, 98, the revenues were dropping from 40 billion. Its lowest point, I think, after the Napster early 2000s
Right.
was
I
about
remember that. I
6 or
lived through
9
that.
billion
Yeah.
dollars. And it had gone from 40 billion to like $9 billion, and it slowly recovered over 20 years. And of course, the industry complains about the Spotify's, and if you've been watching the news lately, Universal Music, who we distribute through, through one of their distribution companies called InGrooves, we actually distribute through them. And of course, all of my son's content was pulled off TikTok because they're in a dispute just now, Universal, with TikTok over how much the royalties are. And again, that's great for my son. He's got the mighty Universal, renegotiating his contract for him, as well as Taylor Swift and people. So we'll see what happens with the digital stuff. But in the meantime, he's getting vinyl made, and it's incredible. The people that his music suits the idea of vinyl. It's if you check it out, but it's very interesting, and it's high margin. So that's why the labels are making so much money again. It's the music industry's back up to 29 billion in revenue, and
Wow. That's very interesting. Well,
it's really
I think
interesting.
this
Yeah.
is what's really interesting to me is that everyone was early on, people were getting very nervous, and we haven't even reached the height of what AI can do in terms of music and music video. And I was having this
Mm,
conversation with
yeah, that's going to be
their
exciting.
a producer, and I said, honestly, the more I work with this AI stuff, the more I realize the value of an individual contributor, a real intelligence will get. Okay, so
Yes.
yeah, of
Yeah.
course I can listen to AI and I can write my own music.
Yeah.
But man, after
Yeah.
listening to Ross Owen, I realized that's the feeling I want back. I know that's a human created human music, and and that experience
Mm.
is actually a time, it literally brings you into a time frame that just feels, it's euphoric, right? There's this,
Right.
you can kind of
That's
immerse
it.
yourself with this thing. The other thing is, my brother-in-law, very much into vinyl. We have this talk all the time that this analog, actually, there's a, a different, and even in my opinion, a better
Mhm.
sound when you're listening to
Sure.
an
Well, we
a
mastered it
vinyl.
differently. Yes. So my son, of course,
Yeah.
working in Atlantic Records, he had access to the mastering engineer in Atlantic Records. So, he I think bought him a few beers or whatever to master the album. And he also did his previous record. Actually, he did a really nice record called Trail Mix. That was like an EP of some fantastic songs. And he got this guy Zach to do the album. And once they did the digital release, they went back and remastered it for vinyl. So you're right, they took a bit of the limiting off because the digital services limit without explaining the technicalities of it, but they
Yeah.
squash the sound a little bit on those digital services. So when you put it on vinyl, it breathes again,
Yeah,
And if you have
I
a
totally
good
understand
system,
when
it sounds
that
amazing.
comment, "It breathes again." I totally get it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
wild.
So it's not got that ceiling that it's hitting that you feel it squash, It
Yeah.
actually it breathes.
It's
So
just
yeah, my
breathing. It's
son,
like a click on it's hard to explain, like a physical click over, the bump or
yeah,
whatever. You can feel it. I know what you
that's it.
mean,
Yeah, yeah,
but
exactly. So
that's
so yeah, so
so
he's
awesome.
dialed into all of that being a professional engineer. He's working with all the big artists in Atlantic Records during the day. So he understands how to make it sound good. So this new album actually is an incredible experience. Just to give him a plug again, but it's actually, as you say, it kind of takes you to somewhere that is made for
It really
vinyl as
does.
well. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting. We'll see. Hopefully, he gets it's his break even. I mean, he does have a business degree as well. So I've said to him, look, as long as you've run the numbers, it's good. But he's
For
actually
sure.
very excited about the release, and I think he's going to do well with it. I don't see a big hill for him to get past that number that he breaks even on it. So
Yeah.
this is the power of this today, is that people can run their own company like that. I mean, back in
Okay,
the
that's a good
80s when I
point.
was an artist, I've got my Dear John letters from EMI and Polydor and people I'd sent my demo tapes to when I was 20, or in fact, when I was younger, when I was probably 15, 16, I sent demo tapes to the record companies of my songs. And I got the Dear John letter of, this is not quite what we're looking for, keep at it and all that, and I kept them actually just because it was fun, to have that
That's
rejection
awesome.
letter get
Yeah.
back to me. But, I don't know exactly what it means, but other than I guess I sucked at writing songs, but but my son in that regard isn't inhibited by that, and I think that's the spirit of
Love it.
entrepreneurs. But they still have to be fiscally responsible. They still have to kind of run a business, and that's kind of how he treats the record company. So he
Right.
does all his own digital marketing. His girlfriend does his art direction, so she helps make it look good and things. And they literally run it like a small business, which is, as I said, I think
Wow.
the Gen Z way, so
He
it's
sounds
how
impressive.
it's
I
gonna be.
can't wait to meet him. I'm looking forward to
Thank you.
actually meeting him and
Yeah,
man, collaborate
you've
and
got to
see
come
how
to
do
New
we get
York.
some music out. Yeah.
That's
So,
right. Yeah, you should have.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'll send you a file, and you can put that as the outro for this if you like. And you can take people
Hey.
home with one of my son's songs.
Yeah, I gotta ask them how to do that. I bet we could do that. Well,
There
yeah,
you
I'm
go.
pretty sure we could do it. I'll ask the group. But Scott, I just wanted to thank you so much for giving your time. I think there's a whole lot more for us to cover, especially, getting in more to into the depth of how and when
Mm,
these organizations can start to look at SAP, why there's this benefit and value. Yeah, if you're willing, I'd love to have you
happy
back
to.
on
Absolutely,
and
this is fun.
but yeah, thank you so much. I think we're on a Friday here, so um, have a great
Keep it
weekend.
short and
And
sweet.
man, I really
Yeah,
look forward to having you back on. So
awesome. I
um,
look forward to it, David. Thank you for having me, and yeah, look forward to the next conversation.